What's up everybody, I'm Adam, you're watching the Model Aviator channel. This week we're checking out the latest release from Horizon Hobby. This is the brand new E-Flite ElectroStreak 1.1 meter. Now some of you that have been in the hobby a while might recognize that name, ElectroStreak. Great Planes made a balsa kit and then I think later an ARF of an airplane called the ElectroStreak. This is not in any way based on or designed after that airplane, but it reminded some of the folks at Horizon Hobby of that plane, and the name fits. This thing is fast. It is intended to replace the venerable V900 as Horizon Hobby's 3 and 4S 2200 Speedster in their airplane lineup. This thing is said to be able to do about 100 miles an hour on 3S 2200s and around 130 on 4S 2200, so right there speed-wise with the V900, if not maybe a little bit faster. V900 was difficult to launch for a lot of people. It would torque over and roll on its back in a heartbeat, sometimes even in safe if you didn't launch it with enough oomph. This one is much easier to launch and it's a bit more aerobatic, so let's check it out. The particular ElectroStreak that we have here is an early production sample that Horizon has tested and then sent to us. So I didn't get a manual in the box with this one, but I didn't need it. We all know how Horizon does a manual. This is the one for the SportX 1.1. They're very comprehensive. They make the steps of assembly very easy. This is a glueless assembly and it goes together almost as fast as it flies. The part count on this one is very low. We started by installing our horizontal stab. There's a slot in the back of the fuse underneath the rudder that you slide that into. Once you get that into place, there are 3 different size bolts. You'll use the longest one to come in from underneath and tighten that down. You can tell when you've got it tight by how far it goes into the built-in nut in the top of the horizontal stab. To install the one-piece main wing, you first have to turn the aerodynamic locking tab on top of the hatch to the side, remove the hatch and get that out of your way. You'll now plug in your 2 aileron connections, stuff the wires in a ready-made hole in the fuse as you bring the wing down on top, and you'll use the last 2 screws to tighten the wing down. The longer one goes to the front. And that's pretty much it. The only thing left for you to do is install the ball link on the ball that is already installed on the control horn of that horizontal stab on your elevator, and you are pretty much good to go. Assembly done. Now one thing we do recommend, anytime you get an airplane that has a propeller installed from the factory, go ahead and take the spinner and propeller off. Make sure that propeller is properly balanced and then get it properly snugged up. Remember, it is an aluminum prop adapter, so you don't want to over tighten it. You can crack and stress that aluminum, but you want it good and snug. Put your spinner back on. It is probably fine from the factory, but better safe than sorry. The ElectroStreak has a 43.3 inch wingspan. It's 36.9 inches long. Our example weighs 2 pounds, 9.34 ounces, ready to fly with a 4S 50C 2200 Spectrum pack. It has an AVN 45 amp Smart Light ESC, an AVN 1260 kV brushless motor, 9-gram digital metal gear servos, and is intended for 3S 2200 and 4S 1800 to 2200 packs. The ElectroStreak is right around what is considered a park flyer size and weight airplane, but given the extreme speeds this airplane is capable of, really and truly a sanctioned flying area, or at the very least a very large area where you are certain that people and their property are nowhere to be found, is really the only safe place to fly something like this. Horizon sells this airplane as a plug-and-play or a bind-and-fly. With the plug-and-play, all the electronics are installed except for a receiver. You choose the radio protocol and install your receiver of choice yourself. Of course, a full-range receiver, given the speed of it, is highly recommended. If you get the bind and fly, it comes with a Spectrum AR631 Plus, AS3X Plus, and Safe Select compatible receiver already installed for you. The airplane is a 4-channel airplane out of the box. You have elevator, rudder, ailerons, throttle control, and you can assign a 5th channel or 5th function to flip between optional Safe Select if you choose to use that, and AS3X Plus. Obviously, if you have a Spectrum Airwear compatible transmitter, you'll also get some smart telemetry. You'll have flight log information, minimum and maximum voltage, minimum and maximum ESC status, on-the-fly ESC status, smart battery telemetry, AS3X and safe select status, gyroscope status, and a G meter. The ElectroStreak is nothing if not built for absolute speed. The EPO that this airplane is made from is very dense EPO foam, and it has a lot of composite reinforcement throughout. More than I've seen in most foam airplanes. I think this is the stiffest foam airframe that I've seen thus far, which means it's going to fly much more precise, which is something you want out of a speedster. When you're low and into triple-digit speeds, you want it to be precise. You also want a very high contrast paint scheme where it's very easy to differentiate between top and bottom with anything that fast, and it has that. It has plastic reinforcement around the nose and underneath for those belly landings, and of course there's protection for the servo arms and control horns on the ailerons, so they've pretty much thought of everything. When you belly this thing in, you're not going to damage anything on the airplane. It is a convenient top loader, very easy to get your battery in and out of there. We'll go over a little more in detail how we get our battery in there in the setup chapter, which will be next. The manual is going to have a section in it that will explain to you how to set up the optional use flaperons and spoilerons if you decide that you want to be able to use that. That is a possibility with this airplane, and of course it is very easy to store and transport given the small size, and if you want to take it down from there and make it really small, 2 bolts, 2 connections, piece of cake. The manual for the ElectroStreak will be as comprehensive as we are used to E-Flite manuals being, which is very much so. So if you elect to set this airplane up yourself, it will take you step by step through how to program your transmitter for this airplane specifically, and it will have all the other pertinent information, things like CG, expo, rate suggestions, push rod placement on both the servo arm and the control horn end, and the ElectroStreak has ball links throughout, so making adjustments to center those control surfaces and even making mechanical adjustments is not difficult if that's something that you decide that you want to do. It does have the smart transmitter file downloaded into that AR631 Plus receiver, so when you go to bind it, you can choose to forego that and do the setup yourself, or you can choose to use it. If you do, it will upload a setup directly into your transmitter that sets almost everything up. You will have rates set up on individual switches for all 3 axes. You will have expo set up for both low and high rates. You'll have a throttle cut. All the voice prompts are set up for you. The only thing left for you to do is determine how many minutes you want to set on your timer and how you want your timer to start and stop. And then of course, if you want to utilize Safe Select, you're going to have to activate that in forward programming and get that set up yourself. I strongly recommend that you do that when it comes to launching airplanes like this. Safe Select works really well. It has an automatic launch feature. It senses the lateral G of your hand launch and feeds in up elevator to get the airplane away from your hands safely, pun intended. And I will say, I owned a V900 for about a year, put about 100 flights on that thing. Super fun airplane, super torquey though. If you did not throw that thing like you were John Elway, and for those of you in the UK that don't know who that is, NFL quarterback, super strong arm. Anyway, if you threw it like a sissy and you had too much throttle in, it would literally torque that airplane over and roll it on its back, even in safe, because there just wasn't enough speed for the control surfaces to be effective and the torque overpowered everything. You don't have that problem with the ElectroStreak. It flies slow very well. You don't need anywhere near as much throttle to get a good launch, and it just comes away from your hands nice and easy, much easier to hand launch. Now, a couple things we want to go over. When it comes to setting up flaperons or spoilerons, you can do that, and the manual will take you through how to do that if it's something that you feel like you want to use for some reason. We didn't do that because I had no trouble landing the airplane where I wanted to. It didn't float forever, and hitting my spot was pretty easy. If it was going to float a lot, then I may have wanted to maybe create some drag and utilize one or both of those, but I didn't see a need to, but you can do that if you want to. And when it comes to putting the batteries in, utilizing the battery strap as tight as something this small and aerodynamic is was a little bit of a pain to me, and so I figured out that I could just yank that out. I just yanked the strap and the Velcro out. I'm utilizing 4-cell packs, and even with the 3-cell packs, I could just slide the battery underneath the foam, underneath essentially the front leading edge of the wing, almost up against the receiver, and the wires from the ESC and the battery would rest right in front of it and easily hold it in place with 3 or 4S. And then of course you've got this positive locking tab on the hatch if it were to work forward, which I never had one do that. Had no problem doing both positive and negative maneuvers. So just letting you know that not utilizing the strap and putting the battery in the way we showed you in that picture worked for us. Just something to consider if you get annoyed monkeying with that strap the way I did, but the strap is there if you want to utilize it. We flew this airplane on Spectrum Smart 3S and 4S 2200 packs exclusively. We will have demos on both 3S and 4S. We did some stall tests. Coming up next is going to be our full setup page, even though our setup is the smart transmitter file. We utilize that. I took a look at how much throw I had. I took a look at the expo settings, took a look at what they had programmed in forward programming. I felt really good about it. Flew the airplane, flew great, did not change a thing. So that's our setup, but you can take a look at it if you want to. Pause it if you want to see how they have the airplane set up in that smart transmitter file. After that, we'll go straight to the demos, and then after the flying, we'll meet you back here. We'll give you our final thoughts on this good-looking Speedster. Enjoy the flying. We'll see you in a minute. Notice on that hand launch, I didn't require very much throttle at all to get the airplane away from my hands safely. The ElectroStreak is fully aerobatic, and on 4-cell you can cruise around at 40 to 50% throttle with plenty of speed for maneuvering. When you pour the coals to it, acceleration happens instantly, and it is quick. It does a wicked pop top as well. Of course, the vertical performance is ridiculous. You can do it until you get bored with it or it goes out of sight. I don't recommend the latter. Maintaining inverted flight requires very little down elevator input. It can easily sustain a knife edge, and unlike a lot of speedsters I've flown, you don't have to be wide open to do it. And then of course, anything that can do a pop top can do a pinwheel. It's very stable at the other end of the speed envelope as well. Slow flight is pretty much rock solid. This one is a blast to fly. It's a great speedster, but it's capable of so much more than that. Here I'm about to get it into some really tight turns and see if I can coax an aerodynamic stall out of it. I couldn't. I didn't really have any issues hitting the spot I wanted to, but we have very large places to fly at. If you've got a smaller runway, the flapper-on option might be handy. We're going to start airborne on the 3S demo. This one won't be as long, just to keep the video from being too long. Basically, in a nutshell, what you need to know about it on 3-cell is it will do everything it will on 4-cell, just not as fast and just not as much vertical. That was a stall attempt, just a power off 1G stall. We're going to come and do it again. Pretty much falls straight forward unless you really hold it in, and it will eventually kind of drop a wing, but you can prevent that by just unloading the airframe. Make no mistake, it's still quick on 3S when you give it the beans, but it's just not crazy fast like it is on 4-cell. We're going to just let you enjoy this flight, and we'll pick back up with some narration in the bonus footage.
on that hand launch, I didn't throw it quite hard enough, but it still wasn't an issue. And when you give it enough of a toss, that's how easy it is, and I'm still not throwing it super hard. Got a few more fast passes for you at another venue, just because it's cool.
I really enjoyed flying the ElectroStreak. I think the thing that I am most excited about, not only for myself but for all of you, is how much easier this thing is to hand launch than the old V900. Now, make no mistake, I'm not knocking the V900. I could successfully hand launch that thing. I did doink it and had an incident the first couple times I did it because I didn't realize how hard you had to throw that thing. But with the V900, if you threw it too easy and you threw it into a stall, the tendency is to get in to grab more power and try to get out of that. Well, it had so much torque that even in safe, if there wasn't enough airflow flowing over the control surfaces for them to be effective, then it didn't matter that safe was making the proper correction. Torque would win and it would roll it on its back, and that always would end badly. With this one, it doesn't take much throttle at all. You don't have to throw it like a gorilla, and you can get it out in front of you. Safe takes over, gives in a little bit of up elevator to pitch that nose up, flip it off, get in the throttle, off you go. Jed's a millionaire and life is good. It's just very, very simple. I think it's simple enough to hand launch that maybe a throttle to up elevator mix for those of you that might buy the plug and play and you don't use Spectrum Protocol. You don't have to have safe to launch this one successfully. And safe is a big help hand launching a lot of airplanes, and I think with a lot of airplanes, frankly, you kind of need it. But with this one, you don't have to have it. It does make your life easier, but if you don't use Spectrum and you buy the plug and play, this is a speedster you're not going to have a problem hand launching. Now, when it comes to the other flight qualities of this airplane, I love the fact that it's a great sport aerobat. I was able to do things with this that I haven't been able to do with any speedster, pop tops and pinwheels. That was very impressive. It's a pretty versatile experience in the air. You can fly it as a speedster, you can fly it as just a sport aerobatic plane, or you can mix the two, which I really enjoy doing. When it comes to skill level, Horizon says this is a skill level 2, and I believe that to a point. I think if you are very, very confident with your trainer and you're really adept with that, and you know that the left gimbal is not an on-off switch and you modulate throttle, you can absolutely get this as your second airplane. If you are timid and the throttle is an on-off switch to you and you only have experience with your Aero Scout or your Apprentice, maybe a different second airplane make this one your third one, because when you throttle up, it gets out there in a hurry and could get away from somebody that is nervous pretty easily. So just keep that in mind. If you are a confident advanced level pilot, you're going to have no trouble having a blast with this thing. I know I did. Now, when it comes to the price point, $250 for the bind and fly, $220 for the plug and play. I think that's very fair. The bind and fly, to me, is really the smoking deal, because you have that smart transmitter file, and it's a good enough setup that even an experienced, picky guy like me didn't feel the need to change anything. And that's saying something, because oftentimes I do change things. With this one, the setup was good enough. I didn't feel the need to change a single thing. I just flew it, and that is super convenient. It's very convenient to get together. Very easy to field assemble and disassemble, which makes storage and transport very easy, even in the smallest of vehicles or the smallest of hangars. So we really think it's a good deal for the price. And we think you'll enjoy it if you decide that you'd like to add one to your hangar. If you go through the links we'll put in the description, that helps our channel out, lets Horizon know you like what we're doing, and funds all this camera equipment, the studio lights, and all the trips that we make to the field, and the work that we put into doing these videos for you. So when you do that, thank you. We appreciate it very much. That's it for us. Take care of yourselves. Happy flying. We'll see you next week with something cool with wings. It won't be this fast, but it will be cool.